Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to talk about the holidays and some holiday related things that we've talked about in the past. Hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to part 1 of 2 of the Christmas mini-series. In this video I'm going to talk about Krampus. Krampus has been theorized to date back to pre-Christian Alpine tradition, with celebrations dating back to the 6th or 7th century CE. Though there were no written sources before the end of the 16th century. Although Krampus appears in many variations, most share common characteristics. He has either brown or black hair, has cloven hooves and goat horns. Krampus carries chains, which are thought to symbolize the binding of the devil by the Christian Church. Pagans believe Krampus carries a root, which is a bundle of birch branches used to swat children, which is sometimes replaced with a whip in other interpretations. He is sometimes depicted with a sack or basket strapped to his back that's used to carry evil children to drown, eat, or transport to hell. Krampus's name derives from the German word Krampen, which means claw. He is said to be the son of Hel from Norse mythology. Around December 5th or 6th, Krampus would visit kids and punish them. In Alpine Australia and some parts of Germany, this day is known as Krampus Nacht or Krampus Night. Krampus could also have been seen running the streets during a Krampuslaar. The Krampuslaar isn't tied to any specific day. Austrian men would get drunk and run through the streets wearing fur suits, carved wooden masks, and carrying a cowboy to resemble Krampus. Even though Krampus's first appearance in the U.S. seems to be a 1998 arcade game called Carnival, the city of Chicago claims itself the Krampus capital of the States. They say this because of a man named Mott Baukamp, who is said to have started the craze. He was a graphic designer and art director that became fascinated by old paintings of the Alpine Beast. It started when a friend gifted him some pre-World War I postcards, many of them being Krampus holiday cards. He was drawn to the artwork and featured some in his magazine Blab. He found that they got an overwhelming response, so he decided to put out a book about it. In 2004, Mott released The Devil in Design, the Krampus postcards. The book is a collection of rare late 19th century Christmas postcards with an overview on the history of Krampus and the postcard industry. Shortly after the book's release, TV shows started sending requests to license images, which led Mott to publish Krampus, the Devil of Christmas in 2010, which was an updated version of his original book. I hope y'all liked learning about Krampus, and I'll see you tomorrow for the end of the Christmas mini-series. Hello and welcome to the Christmas Eve video. I'll be talking about Santa Claus, also known as Father Christmas, Saint Nick, or Kris Kringle. Santa is said to give kids presents if they were good, or coal if they were bad. Santa originates in Western Christian culture. The name Father Christmas dates as far back as the 26th century England during the reign of Henry VIII. He was pictured as a large man in green or scarlet robes lined with fur. The Victorian revival of Christmas included Father Christmas as an emblem of good cheer. His appearance is shown in John Leech's illustration of The Ghost of Christmas Past in Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. In the Netherlands and Belgium, Santa Claus competes with Sinterklaas, who remains the predominant gift giver. Sinterklaas is based off St. Nicholas. In Catholicism, St. Nicholas is the patron saint of children. Santa is also called Der Kerstman, or the Christmas Man, in Dutch, and Père Noël in French. In Dutch, he has assistants called Pyten, not elves. In Finland, Santa is called Joulupukki, which translates to Christmas goat. The name Santa Claus was first used in the United States Post in 1773. The modern character of Santa is based on folklore traditions surrounding St. Nicholas, Father Christmas, and Sinterklaas. Generally, Santa is depicted as a portly, jolly, white-bearded man. He wears a red coat with white fur lining and has a matching hat and pants, black leather belt and boots, and is often wearing glasses. He carries a sack full of presents for children. This image has become popular in the US and Canada in the late 19th century. This is due to the significant influence of the 1823 poem A Visit from St. Nicholas and caricaturist Thomas Nast. This image has been maintained and reinforced through song, radio, television, books, family traditions, movies, and advertising. In fact, Coca-Cola advertising played a huge role in shaping the jolly character we know today. Before 1931, there were many depictions of Santa Claus, but in 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned illustrator Haddon Sundblom to paint Santa for Christmas ads. Those paintings established Santa as a warm, happy character. Sundblom drew inspiration from an 1822 poem called "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" by Clement Clarke Moore. Prior to Christianization, the Germanic peoples celebrated Yule. Folklorist Margaret Baker says that the appearance of Santa and Father Christmas owes much to Odin, the blue-hooded, cloaked, and white-bearded gift-bringer of the north. He rides his 8-footed steed Sleipnir and visits his people. The tradition of Santa Claus entering houses through chimneys also supposedly comes to us from Odin. Odin would often enter through chimneys or fire holes on the solstice. There are other countries with similar stories. In the Italian Bafina tradition, the gift-giving witch is perpetually covered in soot from her trips down the chimneys of children's homes. In the tale of St. Nicholas, the saint tossed coins through a window, but in later versions, down a chimney. In many countries, children leave out snacks and drinks for Santa. In American and Canadian tradition, children leave out milk and cookies. In Britain and Australia, it's beer and mince pies. The Irish also leave out beer and mince pies, but they also sometimes leave out Christmas pudding and milk. In Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, they leave out rice porridge with sugar, cinnamon. Also, in some places, they leave out carrots for Santa's reindeer. Santa Claus's home traditionally includes a residence and a workshop, and some stories include a village for the elves. For any of y'all with kids, there are numerous Santa tracking websites. The origins of the NORAD Track Santa program began in the US in 1955. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope y'all have a wonderful Christmas. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I will talk about the dark origins of Valentine's Day. The ancient Roman festival of Lupercalia has been one of the earliest records of the term Valentine's Day. But this holiday isn't what you would imagine. In fact, it's probably darker. The event began with the traditional sacrifice of an unlucky goat and dog. A group of priests called the Luperci then cut off a piece of the skin of the two animals, touched them to their foreheads, and then struck it against every woman nearby. It was said that this would make the woman more fertile. Many believed two saints named Valentine were the inspiration behind the holiday. One of the Valentines was protected by the emperor Claudius Gothicus after Valentine refused to worship the Roman gods. I've heard two different people who he wrote the letter to. on which he signed from your Valentine. Some say he wrote this to a woman he allegedly healed from blindness. Other stories state that he sent it to his lover, who was the jailer's daughter. Many say that the holiday could be inspired by his kindness and love. The other Saint Valentine was a Catholic priest in tyranny that went against the emperor's orders and secretly married young, swooning couples. Emperor Gothicus believed that unmarried men made better soldiers. Gothicus executed Saint Valentine on November 14th, around 269 AD. Since he died for the sin of arranging marriages, his death is remembered as the Day of Love. There are some theories that claim that these two Valentines were in fact the same person, but there is no proof. By the end of the 5th century, Pope Gelasius had seen enough, so he replaced Lupercalia with St. Valentine's Day. One of the first greeting cards to mark the day was back in the 16th century. It included the now iconic question, "Will you be my Valentine?" And in 1847, Esther Homeland became one of the first U.S. manufacturers of the holiday cards. Richard Cardberry followed with the creation of the first chocolate box in 1868. Today, the holiday is celebrated throughout the world with gifts, including red roses, chocolates, sweethearts, movies, dates, and more. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome to the St. Patrick's Day episode. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated annually on March 17th, the anniversary of St. Patrick's death. The Irish have observed this day as a religious holiday for over 1,000 years. Irish families would attend church in the morning and celebrate in the afternoon. People would dance, drink, and feast on the traditional meal of Irish bacon and cabbage. St. Patrick, who lived during the 5th century, is the patron saint of Ireland. Born in Roman Britain, he was kidnapped and brought to Ireland as a slave at 16. He later escaped, but returned to Ireland and was credited with bringing Christianity to Ireland. In the centuries following his death, the mythology surrounding his life became ever more ingrained in Irish culture. Perhaps the most well-known legend of St. Patrick is that he explained the Holy Trinity using the 3 leaves of the Irish clover, also known as the shamrock. Since around the 9th or 10th century, people in Ireland have been observing the Roman Catholic feast day. The first St. Patrick's Day parade took place in America, not Ireland. Records show that a St. Patrick's Day parade was held on March 17, 1601, in what is now known as St. Augustine, Florida. The parade and celebration a year earlier was the work of the colony's Irish vicar, Ricardo Arthur. More than a century later, homesick Irish soldiers serving the English military marched in New York City in 1772. Enthusiasm for the parade in New York, Boston, and other early American cities only grew from there. Over the next 35 years, Irish patriotism among American immigrants flourished, prompting the rise of so-called Irish aid societies like the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick and the Hibernian Society. Each group would hold annual parades featuring bagpipes and drums. In 1849, several New York Irish aid societies decided to unite their parades to form one New York City St. Patrick's Day parade. Today, that parade is the world's oldest civilian parade and the largest in the United States with over 150,000 participants. Each year, nearly 3 million people line up along the route to watch the parade. As Irish immigrants spread out over the U.S., other cities developed their own traditions. One is Chicago's annual dyeing of the Chicago River green. The tradition started in 1692 when city pollution control workers used dyes to trace illegal sewage discharges and realized green dye might be a unique way to celebrate the holiday. That year, they released 100 pounds of green vegetable dye into the river, which was enough to keep it green for a week. Today, in order to minimize environmental damage, they lowered the amount to 40 pounds, and the river is only green for several hours. A leprechaun trap is a children's craft used to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. The trap is usually made of common household materials such as cardboard boxes, tin cans, or paper. The traps are green and gold and decorated with stereotypical leprechaun items such as gold coins, rainbows, top hats, and shamrocks. The traps get set up the night before St. Patrick's Day, and while the kids are sleeping, parents will put chocolate coins by it, making it look like a leprechaun did it. Kiss Me, I'm Irish is a common phrase associated with St. Patrick's Day. It originates from the legend of the Blarney Stone, which is believed to bring luck and eloquence to those who kiss it. There are several superstitions people follow on St. Patrick's Day, including wearing green until midnight or baking Irish soda bread to protect your household. According to folklore, you get pinched for not wearing green on St. Patrick's Day because green makes you invisible to leprechauns and they like to pinch people. I hope you all enjoyed this video and I'll see you all next time. Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about the history of Easter. The word Easter comes from Eostre, the Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring and fertility. While nowadays it's mostly recognized as a Christian holy day, many of its traditions and symbols actually have roots in pagan celebrations and the Jewish holiday of Passover. Christians celebrate Easter with the belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In the New Testament of the Bible, the event is said to have happened 3 days after he was crucified by the Romans and died in roughly 30 AD. Easter Sunday is considered a movable feast that always falls on a Sunday between March 22nd and April 25th. Easter typically falls on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, which happens to be March 31st this year. Examples of non-Christian Easter traditions include Easter eggs and the Easter bunny. It's believed that eggs represent fertility and birth in certain pagan traditions. Egg decorating may have become part of the Easter celebration in a nod to the religious significance of Easter. The Easter bunny delivers candy and chocolate eggs to children on Easter morning. The candies often arrive in an Easter basket. The exact origins of the Easter bunny are unknown, although some historians believe it arrived in America with German immigrants in the 1700s. Easter foods are steeped in symbolism. A dinner of Easter lamb, I think I said that wrong, but an Easter dinner of lamb has historical roots since lamb was often used for sacrifice by the Jewish. The phrase "the Lamb of God" is sometimes used to refer to Jesus and the sacrificial nature of his death. Easter is a commercial event as much as it is a religious holiday, marked by high sales for greeting cards, candies, and other gifts. I hope you all enjoyed this video even though I messed up a little bit, and I hope you all have a great day. Hello, and welcome back to another video. Buckle up, because today we will be doing a deep dive into the history of Halloween and all things related. Halloween origin dates back to the ancient festival of Samhain. The Celts, who lived 2,000 years ago, celebrated their New Year's on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the cold, dark winter, a time often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the living and dead worlds become blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought that the presence of otherworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids, or Celtic priests, to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, their prophecies were an important source of comfort during the cold, dark winter. To commemorate the event, Druids would build huge
sacred bonfires where people gathered to burn crops and animal sacrifices to the Celtic deities. They would wear animal heads and skins and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. By 43 AD, the Roman Empire had conquered the majority of Celtic territory. In the course of 400 years that they ruled the Celtic lands, two festivals of Roman origin were combined with the Celtic celebration of Samhain. The first was Feralia, a day in October when the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second day was to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. Her symbol is an apple, meaning that this could explain the tradition of bobbing for apples. On May 13th, 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic feast of All Martyrs' Day was established in the Western Church. Pope Gregory III later expanded the festival to include all saints as well as all martyrs, and moved the observance from May 13th to November 1st. By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread to Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with and supplanted older Celtic rites. In 1000 AD, the Church made November 2nd All Souls' Day, a day to honor the dead. Today, it is believed that the Church tried to replace the Celtic festival with a church-sanctioned holiday. All Souls' Day was celebrated similarly to Samhain, with big bonfires, parades, and dressing in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. The celebration was also called All Hallows or All Hallow Mass, and the night before it, the traditional night of Samhain, began to be called All Hallows Eve, and eventually Halloween. The celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant belief system there. Halloween was much more common in Maryland and the southern colonies. As the beliefs and customs of different European ethnic groups and the American Indians meshed, a distinctly American version of Halloween began to emerge. The first celebrations included play parties, which were public events held to celebrate the harvest. Neighbors would share stories of the dead, tell each other's fortunes, sing and dance. Colonial Halloween festivities also featured the telling of ghost stories and mischief making of all kinds. By the middle of the 19th century, annual autumn festivities were common, but Halloween was not yet celebrated everywhere in the country. In the second half of the 19th century, America was flooded with new immigrants. These new immigrants, especially the millions of Irish fleeing from the Irish potato famine, helps to popularize the celebration of Halloween nationally. In the late 1800s, there was a move in America to mold Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers, rather than about ghosts, pranks, and witchcraft. Parents were encouraged by newspapers and community leaders to take anything frightening or grotesque out of the Halloween celebrations. Because of these efforts, Halloween lost most of its superstitious and religious overtones by the beginning of the 20th century. By the 1920s and 1930s, Halloween had become a secular but community-centered holiday with parades and town-wide Halloween parties as the featured entertainment. Despite the efforts of many schools and communities, vandalism plagued many communities. Borrowing from European traditions, Americans began to dress up in costumes and go house to house asking for food or money, a practice that eventually became trick-or-treating. This tradition was revived between 1920 and 1950. In theory, families would prevent tricks being played on them by providing the neighborhood children with treats. It dates back to All Souls' Day parades in England, where poor citizens would beg for food and families would give them pastries called soul cakes in return for the person to pray for the family's dead relatives. The distribution of soul cakes was encouraged by the church as a way to replace the ancient practice of leaving food and wine for roaming spirits. The practice, which was referred to as going a souling, was eventually taken up by children who would visit the houses in their neighborhoods to be given ale, food, and money. The tradition of dressing up in a costume for Halloween has both Celtic and European roots. On Halloween, to keep ghosts from recognizing them, they would wear masks when they left their homes after dark. The practice of carving faces on vegetables may have roots in Ireland, where large turnips served as early canvases. Even the name jack-o'-lantern comes from an Irish folk tale about a man named Stingy Jack. Irish immigrants brought the tradition to America, home of the pumpkin, and it became an integral part of Halloween festivities. Placing jack-o'-lanterns in front of windows or doors frightens away Stingy Jack and other evil spirits. According to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to pay for their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack kept the coin in his pocket with the silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back to his original form. Jack freed the devil under the condition that he would not be bothered for 1 year, and if Jack should die, he will not claim his soul. The next year, Jack tricked the devil into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. While the devil was in the tree, Jack carved a cross into the tree's bark so that the devil couldn't come down until he promised not to bother Jack for another 10 years. Soon after, Jack died. God wouldn't allow him into heaven, and the devil kept his word. So he sent Jack off into the night with only a burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal into a carved out turnip and has been roaming Earth ever since. The Great Depression was a time of great economic and social change that affected many parts of American life, including Halloween. Parents, concerned with their sons running amok on All Hallows Eve, organized haunted houses or trails to keep them off the streets. Early haunted houses were small, non-profit affairs held in residential areas. In later decades, large organizations began to host their own haunted houses as fundraisers or commercial attractions. The most famous and influential one was Disneyland's Haunted Mansion in 1969. Since then, America's haunted attractions have become more and more elaborate. Universal Studios debuted its first Halloween event called Fright Nights in 1991. However, the studio's legacy in horror dates back decades earlier to the golden age of cinema, when Universal Pictures thrilled audiences with iconic monster movies like Dracula, The Mummy, The Wolfman, The Bride of Frankenstein, and many others. In 1992, they renamed the event Halloween Horror Nights, and it became an annual event. What began as a 3-night haunting has evolved into a span multiple nights between September and October. Howl or Scream is an annual Halloween event that is presented at Busch Gardens. The event features haunted houses, scare zones, and shows all themes to original horror concepts. It began in 1999 as Spooky Safari. The following year, it was rebranded as Howl or Scream. This year was Howl or Scream's 25th anniversary. For the last section of this video, I wanted to talk about some fun facts that I found out about Halloween and other spooky things. The famous illusionist Harry Houdini died on Halloween in 1926. Sugar rationing during World War II paused trick-or-treating. 1/4 of all candy sold annually in the United States is purchased for Halloween. More people are buying costumes for their dogs. Americans spent nearly $500 million on pet costumes in 2021, more than double what they spent in 2010. Bats were attracted to the bonfires that the ancient Celtics created when celebrating October 31st. The term witch comes from Old English and it means wise woman. The world's largest pumpkin was 2,528 pounds. It's illegal to use or sell silly string in Hollywood on Halloween. If caught with the product, it could cost you up to $1,000 in fines. Halloween is the second largest commercial holiday in the country. Illinois produces 5 times more pumpkins than any other state. Candy corn was originally named chicken feed. The fastest pumpkin carving took 16.47 seconds. The New York City throws the largest Halloween parade in the United States. Bathurst, Canada banned teens from over 16 from trick-or-treating. If they do, they face a charge of up to $200. Keene, New Hampshire holds the record for the most jack-o'-lanterns on display. In 2013, the city broke the record with 30,581 lit pumpkins displayed around the town. Americans used to celebrate the holiday by sending Halloween cards. Greek farmers created the first scarecrows that looked like people to protect their crops. Crows being the primary culprit is how the name originated. There's a reason why black and orange are associated with Halloween. Black is a symbol that Halloween was once associated with the boundaries between life and death, while orange symbolizes the harvest of autumn. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, we will talk about the history of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's roots can be traced both to Native Americans as well as back to the other side of the Atlantic. In ancient times, the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans feasted and paid tribute to their gods after the fall harvest. Thanksgiving also bears relevance to the ancient Jewish harvest festival of Sukkot. Historians noted that Native Americans had a rich tradition of commemorating the fall harvest with feasting and merrymaking long before Europeans set foot on American shores. In September 1620, a small ship called the Mayflower left Plymouth, England, carrying 102 passengers. After a 66-day journey, they dropped anchor near the tip of Cape Cod. 1 month later, the Mayflower crossed Massachusetts Bay, where the Pilgrims began establishing a village. Throughout that first winter, most of the colonists remained on the boat, where they suffered from exposure, scurvy, and outbreaks of contagious disease. Only half of the Mayflower's original passengers and crew lived to see their first New England spring. In March, the remaining settlers moved ashore, where they were visited by a member of the Abenaki tribe, who greeted them in English. Several days later, he returned with Savanto, a member of the Patuxet tribe. Savanto taught the Pilgrims how to cultivate corn, extract sap from maple trees, catch fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. He also helped the settlers forge an alliance with the Wampanoag, which lasted over 50 years. In November 1621, after the Pilgrims' first corn harvest proved successful, Governor William Bradford organized a celebratory feast and invited the group of the colony's Native American allies. Pilgrims held their second Thanksgiving celebration in 1623 to mark the end of a long drought that had threatened the year's harvest and prompted Governor Bradford to call for a religious fast. During the American Revolution, the Continental Congress designated one or more days of Thanksgiving a year. In 1789, George Washington issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by the national government of the United States. In 1817, New York became one of the first of several states to officially adopt an annual Thanksgiving holiday. In 1827, magazine editor and author Sarah Josephina Hale launched a campaign to establish Thanksgiving as a national holiday. For 36 years, she published numerous editorials and sent scores of letters to governors, senators, presidents, and other politicians. Abraham Lincoln heeded her request in 1863. He scheduled Thanksgiving for the first Thursday He scheduled Thanksgiving for the final Thursday in November until Franklin D. Roosevelt moved it up a week during the Great Depression. This was met with passionate opposition, and in 1941, the president reluctantly signed a bill making Thanksgiving to the fourth Thursday in November. Parades have also become an integral part of the holiday across the United States. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is the largest and most famous parade. It attracts 2 to 3 million people along its 2.5 mile route. As the first Macy's Day Parade was in 1924, this year will be the 100th one. There are symbolic interpretations to Thanksgiving foods. Turkey represents the bounty of harvest, often recalling the story of the pilgrims and their reliance on the land for substance. Corn symbolizes the abundance of the harvest and the earth's fertility. Potatoes represent the richness and nourishment of the earth, often seen as a symbol of basic needs being met. Cranberry sauce can symbolize the hardships faced by the pilgrims, as cranberries are a tart fruit that require effort to prepare but can be transformed into a delicious condiment. Pumpkin pie represents the cycles of seasons and renewal, as pumpkins are harvested in autumn. Stuffing can symbolize the idea of filling up with gratitude and blessings. Turkeys were named after the country. Native Americans used cranberries for dye. Female turkeys cackle, but male turkeys gobble. About 50 million pumpkin pies are eaten at Thanksgiving. Americans eat roughly 535 million pounds of turkey on Thanksgiving. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Have a great Thanksgiving, and thank you for watching. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about Yule. Yule is a festival observed historically by Germanic peoples and in modern times primarily by neo-pagans. Yule coincides with the winter solstice. The pre-Christian festival originated in Scandinavia and was later subsumed along with other pagan celebrations into the Christian holiday of Christmas. Some modern celebrations of Yule attempt to recreate ancient traditions, while others have been adapted or reimagined to suit contemporary personal or religious beliefs. Yule is one of the oldest winter solstice festivals, with origins from the ancient Norse thousands of years ago. It is generally agreed that Yule celebrations began as a Norse festival called Jul. Like most winter solstice festivals, themes of light, fire, and feasting are common. In the harsh climate of the northern Europe, the cattle were slaughtered because they could not be fed during the winter, so their meat was often left out as an offering and feasted upon. One of the earliest known mentions of Yule is from a English monk and historian named Bede, who wrote in the early 8th century about Gulili. Gulili was a 2-month span in the old pagan calendar that marks the time when sunlight began to increase again at the winter solstice. It is thought that the original Yule log was a large log that burned throughout the midday festival. A popular modern take on the Yule log is a roulade-style cake decorated to look like a log. Another remaining tradition is that of the Yule goat. In towns and cities throughout Sweden, large goats are constructed out of straw. The Yule goat is now considered to be a companion of Santa Claus. In modern times, Yule is observed by many neo-pagans. For Wiccans, Yule is the second Sabbat of the Wheel of the Year, marked with rituals to welcome the return of the sun. Some mark the holiday with reenactments of the battle between the Holly King and the Oak King of Celtic mythology. Yule is from December 21st to January 1st. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. December 25th, better known as Christmas, is both a sacred religious holiday and a worldwide commercial phenomenon. For 2,000 years, people around the world have observed it with traditions and practices that are both religious and secular in nature. Christians celebrate Christmas as the birth of Jesus. Welcome to the video. Obviously, this one's about Christmas. I hope you all enjoy. In Rome, a holiday to honor Saturn, god of agriculture, called Saturnalia, was celebrated. For a month, enslaved people were given temporary freedom and treated as equals. Business and schools were closed so that everyone could participate in the festivities. Members of Rome's upper class celebrated the birthday of Mithra, the god of the unconquerable sun, on December 25th. For some, Mithra's birthday was the most sacred day of the year. In the early years of Christianity, Jesus' birth wasn't celebrated. In the 4th century, church officials made it a holiday. As the Bible doesn't mention the date of his birth, Pope Julius I chose December 25th. It's commonly believed that the church chose this date in an effort to absorb the traditions of pagan festivals. For the rest of the video, we'll just kind of go over some fun facts. The Christmas tree tradition originated in 16th century Germany. Druids consider mistletoe a symbol of fertility and virility. Evergreens have been a festive symbol since the time of the Romans and ancient Egyptians. Christmas wreaths are religious symbols of eternal life. Silent Night is the most recorded song. Eggnog originated in medieval Britain. Candy canes originated in Germany. And tinsel was invented in 1610 in Germany. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to talk about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a Jewish festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BCE. Hanukkah is observed for 8 nights and days. The festival is observed by lighting the candles of the candelabrum with 9 branches, commonly called a menorah. One branch is typically placed above or below the others, and its candle is used to light the other 8 candles. This unique candle is called the shamash. Each night, one additional candle is lit by the shamash until all 8 candles are lit together on the final night of the festival. Other Hanukkah festivities include singing Hanukkah songs, playing the game of dreidel, and eating oil-based foods like latkes and dairy foods. The dreidel is a 4-sided spinning top, with each side being inscribed with the Hebrew letter. The best-known English Hanukkah songs are Dreidel, Dreidel, Dreidel and O Hanukkah. Hanukkah this year is from the evening of December 25th until January 2nd, 2025. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to talk about Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is an African American and Pan-African holiday that celebrates family, community, and culture. It was created in 1966 by Maulana Karanga. The 7-day cultural festival begins December 26th and ends on January 1st. Each of the days of the celebration is dedicated to one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa: unity, self-determination, responsibility, cooperation, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. On each day, the family comes together to light one of the candles in the Kinara and discuss the principle of the day. On December 31st, families join in a common community feast called the Kamaru. Some participants wear traditional African clothing during the celebration. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we will talk a little bit about the Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year, also known as Chinese New Year, is the most important holiday in Chinese culture. Prior to the start of the day, Chinese households are thoroughly cleaned to remove the previous year's bad luck. The days leading up to the New Year are when people start to decorate with red, as red symbolizes joy and good fortune in Chinese culture. Lunar New Year festivities include parties, firecrackers, and the famous lion dance. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to talk about Al Capone and the Valentines Day Massacre. From 1924 to 1930, the city of Chicago gained a huge reputation for lawlessness and violence. This coincided with the reign of Al Capone. Prohibition, brought on the passing of the 18th Amendment in 1920, greatly increased the earnings of American gangsters through the illegal sale and manufacture of alcohol, illegal drinking establishments, as well as gambling and prostitution. Over the years, Capone took control of most of Chicago's crime by gunning down his rivals. In 1924, authorities counted 16 gang-related murders, but Chicago's gang war reached its climax in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929. One of Capone's longtime rivals, George Moran, ran his bootlegging operations out of a garage at 2122 North Clark Street. On February 14th, 7 members of Moran's operation were gunned down while standing lined up, facing the wall of the garage. Around 70 rounds were fired. When police arrived, Frank Gusenberg was still barely alive. In the few minutes before he bled out, the police tried to get him to reveal what had happened, but he didn't talk. Police could only find a few eyewitnesses, but eventually concluded that gunmen dressed as police officers entered the garage and pretended to arrest the men. Though Moran and others immediately blamed Capone's gang, Capone claims to be at his home in Florida. This crime remains one of the biggest unsolved crimes in history. Though the St. Valentine's Day Massacre marked the end of the significant gang opposition to Capone's rule in Chicago, it was also said to be the beginning of his downfall, as he became the country's most notorious gangster. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time.